Hello, and welcome, Bizak. And let's talk about some stuff. Karmelo Anthony, and not the basketball player, but as you know, there is a young man down in Texas, just in case you don't know, who was involved in a stabbing where he actually stabbed and killed one of a set of twins who was actually down in Texas at a track meet. And he was let go on bail. I want to say $250,000 bail. But he has also, his family, because there's been a lot of negative rumblings because his family has raised on this platform called Give, Send, Go. And it's similar to GoFundMe. And they have raised over $533,000 so far. And I think, I don't know how it works, but they're saying, I guess you can stretch the threshold of it, and they continue to do that. And they're now seeking to get an upwards of $600,000. But that's just one point, because financially, we don't know where anybody is. We don't know as far as for what type of lawyer. And, you know, although that was their child or the mother's child who committed the act, you know, still people will go to great lengths for their children, which is understandable. We talked about this before, maybe a few weeks ago, a month ago, when all of this is first happening, and you can go back and check it out and see what my thoughts were back then. But they still haven't, because we haven't really seen any evidence or anything. I still pretty much feel the same way. The only difference now is that, of course, he's out on bail. He's been out on bail. And now, because of Texas law, he is going to be tried as an adult. They have said that he can be tried as an adult. So what does that mean? With Texas law, they're claiming that, or stating that he cannot receive the death penalty. He cannot receive life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. So he will be eligible for parole in 40 years, if that's what the sentence is. And like I said before, another video that we did was how many lives this has destroyed. And one of the reasons why this case kind of made me stop and think is because, you know, even growing up in the inner city, you know, you go through some challenges. You know, you have to catch several modes of transportation, because here we typically don't drive as much going to high school. You know, you had to be like really fortunate to be one of the ones who had a car to drive to high school, or parent was able to get them a car to drive to high school here in the city specifically. So most of us caught public transportation. Now, do people have knives or guns or something on them? Probably, yeah. But typically, in a lot of our schools here, we had metal detectors, or unfortunately. So, you know, you weren't bringing any of those things in unless somebody snuck you in from another door or whatever. But, you know, that wasn't kind of like the mindset back then. You know, you kind of still had to use these. Some people were shooting, but you still had to use your fists. And I bring this up because now you have a situation where you have a kid that's, and I still say kid because I don't think he's turned 18 yet, but he's 17, and he's going to be fighting for the rest of his life to try to obtain some freedom. As a parent, you try to do everything that you can to give your kids some of what they want. Try to give them most of, or not if all of, what they need. But it's still their decision to do what they want to do, as is all of us with free will. But as I talk to a lot of friends of mine a lot of time about the importance of a strong father figure. Now, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if that's his father or he raised him, or, is it his stepfather? I don't know what the situation is. But I know that as a parent, you can try to do the very best that you can. And what I would say out there is that on top of doing the best that you can, we can still do better. If you got a young kid, a grandkid, a son or whatever of age, make sure somebody's checking his book bag. Make sure, in that house that's your house, you make sure, you go around and check certain stuff. I had one of my daughters, she says to me, and once again, they're young, but they're smart. And so she says to me, well, Daddy, why are you checking through my phone? And I said, because I can, and I am, and I will. Or even just listening to earshot. Yo, who are you on the phone with? And guess what? Don't make any calls without letting me know that you're making a call to another adult, a kid, anybody. Because I need to be aware of what's going on, especially at these young ages. Because let's face it, kids don't learn how to get better after they've been allowed to do whatever they want and then disciplined later. No, it doesn't work like that. They may get better later because they finally calm down, or, they're tired of getting into the trouble that they've been getting into, or you refuse at this point now to bail them out. But discipline check-ins are an ongoing thing. Now, like none of us, we only can speak to the homes that we're in or raising the kids in. So we don't necessarily know, for instance, the situation with a Karmelo Anthony. But just once being a young black guy growing up in the inner city, I almost know if you're carrying a weapon, and especially if you have enough nerve to carry a weapon to an event or track meet, any of that other kind of stuff, that at a certain point, you are going to be itching to use it. You're going to be itching to use it. Because, think about it. Even as us as adults, right? How many of us walk around with weapons? Now, I know some people are licensed to carry, all that kind of stuff, but if you feel, or if you felt even as a child, that you have to walk around with a weapon, two things come to me. First, you feel scared or threatened by some other people or something. And then the other thing is that you don't have a strong male figure at the house that you could talk to talk you out of doing that, to make you feel comfortable and secure with these, and to make you feel comfortable and secure enough to not take a weapon to school. Or a school track meet. Because now you've altered so many people's lives. And I think it until you start to have kids, because I know this was me beforehand, you do feel bad for kids or people that lose their kids before they do, meaning parents, their kids die before them. But after having them, it would almost feel like a death sentence for me. So when I see a situation, I don't care. This is one of those situations where I said even before, to me, this is not a thing. It will turn into a thing of black and white, I'm sure, because it's down in Texas, and that's what the major clash is going to be, because a black man, a black kid killed a white kid. So that's what it's going to be. But just from a moral perspective, it's not race with this, as far as I'm going to look at it out of the lens of somebody lost their child. And somebody else is about to lose their child potentially for the next upwards of 20, 30, even possibly 40 years if convicted. And it just feels unfair. And that's why, like, I wish, like, sometimes with a lot of our younger brothers, because I'm not calling them YNs, our younger brothers, we have to be around to give them steady feedback of goodness Hey, man, check-ins. Call your nephew more if you ain't heard from him or you don't know what's good with him. Because I'm telling you, like, young men need to be able to look up to older men that they respect, that are positive. Because they already have enough negative people to look up to that are negative. And, maybe this kid, Karmelo Anthony, didn't have anybody positive as a male that he could look up to. Or maybe the respect wasn't garnered from the stepfather or the father. I don't know exactly what the situation is. But what I know is that it's just all too common. It's all too common. It's too much killing. It's too much killing. It's too much of just let me react and then let the chips fall where they may. Like here, unfortunately, we had a lot of shootings over the Memorial Day weekend, here in Philly. And, it's like, people have lost their lives. And the thing is that none of us can hide from that any longer. Because, you get to a point in an age where it could be you. Or it could be one of your kids or one of your friends' kids that winds up injured in one of these just random acts of, yo, I got the gun, I got a switch, and I'm going crazy with it because I'm itching to use it. Kid brought a knife to school. Karmelo Anthony brought a knife to attract me. I'm sure that's not the first time he had that knife on him. Because I can't go from me having a knife one time and me threatening somebody, I dare you to do something, I dare you to do it, and then actually poking somebody. Whether you're meaning to kill him or not, the fact that you took something out, had it, poked somebody, and once again, we haven't seen any evidence, so I'm just going based off of what allegedly went down. Poke somebody, get that close to him, poke him, possibly have blood all over you. Where's the thinking at? What's been going on with this kid where you basically said, hey, look, I dare you to do it, and I'm gonna poke you up. I'm gonna stab you out here with all of these people. Once again, it's not like you were in an alley or he was in an alley by himself. Or like down a dark street with a gang of people by himself. He was out at a well-lit track meet where, I'm sure there were a bunch of officials, authority type people out there that could have been asked about a situation where he didn't have to do that. We have to start being more accountable for our kids and what's going on. All of us, our kids, our grandkids, because to me, it is a continuing epidemic. And what happens is that just when we say it can't get worse, it typically does. And when you start living in a city where you cannot, and I know it's been going on in Chicago for years, because I remember looking online and seeing it after July 4th or Memorial Day, there's these mass shootings or 68 people got shot this week, 12 dead. We're not animals. We're not animals. But we also have to take accountability for what goes on in our community. We also have to take accountability. And that's not me saying you need to go outside and march up and down the streets. But that's just saying, hey, man, what's up, nephew? Let me check on you. Because I want to let you know, you know what I mean? I want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. I heard that you've been out there doing some wild stuff. I need to come holler at me. Come talk to me. And guess what? It may not work. But guess what you did? You put the effort in. You tried. You said something to him. You got a kid at home? No, dog. You're not smoking weed in my crib. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I don't care. If you're old enough to smoke, you're old enough to go. Now, I know for some people that might be an unpopular thing to say, but when we start allowing certain behavior in our crib, certain bad behavior, the other bad behavior is typically going to follow. And if it doesn't, what is that saying about us as parents? I've only been a parent for about 3 weeks. I'm literally longer than that. But I'm just saying, in comparison to a lot of people that I know who've been parents for a long time. And people, once again, are allowed to do whatever they want to do in their household. But when we continue to be the victims of our own circumstances, who are we to blame? We can't blame anybody else. And that goes for if you're black, white, Asian, Latino, Arab, if I'm saying it the right way. Goes for all of us. Whereas is that what this happened with Karmelo Anthony is just a microcosm of what's going on around the entire country. And I'll wrap up by saying this. Even though he was a black kid who stabbed a white kid, the number one cause of death for black males 15 to 40 is homicide by another black male. So let's all pitch in. Let's all do better. And, we'll see what happens with Karmelo Anthony, not the basketball player. But hey, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. And until next time, live life. Don't let life live you.